G'day everyone, welcome back to Nat's Knackers Yard. I'll be Nat. This won't be my knackers yard. This will be, I don't know, one of the banes of my life. This will be the M4. Just the most fucking boring motorway in the world. No, probably not the most boring in the UK, but it's just fucking dull. So I've been down deepest rural Wiltshire for a load of visits today and meetings and stuff. And I'm on my way back, and it's just a long hike. It's dull. It's a trip that I do quite often on the bike, but with the weather being so beautiful, which is wonderful for riding motorbikes, but not on motorways. It's just boring. So yeah, I got a work car, I got a hire car, fastest car in the world. I've just pulled out of Reading services because I'm really fucking tired. It's 10 to 7, 20 to 7 in the evening. Needed a coffee. But I've been amusing myself on this boring trip by thinking about Mick the Xj650 and the project, and I'm probably after some help or some advice or some thoughts. Thoughts is probably the best way of putting it. Now, and I'll chuck up some photos that I took while I was going through my various thought process, and actually it's quite handy that I've got a phone bodged up to the wing mirror so that I can record this, and I've got a nice little gap next to me that I can chuck some pictures down. I was moving shit around in the garage, moving Mick across so that I could get to the hangers for the rear pegs that I have painted. I kind of do little bits and pieces that I can throughout the week in the evening. So if I can whip something off and do something with it over 2 or 3 nights in the week. I mean, it's currently Thursday at the time of recording, so probably by the time I've got back and sorted kids out and that sort of thing, I won't push this out until Friday. But little bits and pieces throughout the week. So I was taking those pegs off. So I moved Mick across a little bit. And while I was moving stuff around, I don't want to say the original seat, the seat that came with the bike, just rested it literally on the back while I turned around, moved some stuff, looked at it and thought, I quite like that. Now, when I first got Mick, it had the snowdrop, and I get Seca and Maxim mixed over, but the snowdrop tank, for those that remember, or teardrop, sorry, snowdrop, dickhead, been a long day, sorry. And I didn't like it. I then made the back, I made the tail unit for the bike, and I liked the tank even less. It just didn't fit with a slightly boxier that I'd ended up with in the tail. Got hold of the other boxier frame, which is the red one, tank, and I really like it. I really do. I think it adds some bulk to the bike, and it fitted with the tailpiece that I'd done. It looked a lot better. I hadn't tried it with the seat that it came with, and I sort of stepped back and thought, that looks really quite good. I quite like that. Now the tail itself, the seat itself, has been bodged at some point to fit in inverted commas. So it is kind of, and I'll chuck a picture will show it, but it's got like 2 seats, plastic up together. It's got a load of expandable foam in there as well. So it's a Franken seat, I suppose, and yet the foam fits it beautifully. So I don't quite know the genealogy of it. I don't know where it came from or how it came about as an idea. But I looked at it and thought, it's more of a flat tracker back. Try to say that 3 times fast. I like it. I'm not sure if I like it enough to derail my current plans, but I do quite like the look, and I started to have a bit of a play with it. Now the issue with the back of the Xj650 is it's not flat. It doesn't go from the tank back flat. It goes flat. It then gets to the mounts of the shock absorbers at the back, the rear shocks, and it's got a bend up and and then it continues across like on a shelf, which is, you know, approximately the height difference that the passenger would sit at, you know, like a pillion passenger would sit at. So what? The seat doesn't fit. It doesn't lay flat across the top. Now I started to, this was one of the evenings in the week, I started to think of ways I could address that. So I could either build the seat down, which I just chuck some cardboard on as much as anything else. I think, right, if I was going to do that, how would I do it? Well, I'd probably use plastic. I'd probably plastic weld or rivet or do something to put that on. Well, that's fine, because I can cover that with with leather for the seat, or leatherette, or whatever for the seat cover in it. That will cover that, and I could probably expand the foam a little bit, but fundamentally you wouldn't see it because you'd put the foam over the outside of it, the foam, the leather for the seat around it. And I quite like that. Now the other option is that you kind of hack away underneath of the seat to allow, you know, to cut a divot in that lump will fit over. I had a quick look at that. It's starting to really hit what there is of structural integrity of that seat by carving out too much that it essentially absorbs the bump. But it's still a possibility. The mounts on the side are in the wrong place, but that's not insurmountable. Indeed, I could move the mounts on the frame, or just delete the bumps that they're currently on and go for rib nuts or something similar to mount it with. But the thought is there. The biggest issue it gives me is where to put the battery, the starter relay, the fuse box, and something else. Oh, and the regulator rectifier. Now, on the original setup of the bike, all of that was behind the two side panels, you know, crushed around the airbox, if you like. Now, I deleted the airbox because I wanted that area clear. I wanted it open. It just looks amazing without it. The bike came without those side panels. It just had some really bodged bent metal pieces that was put in there, which, you know, kind of made that decision for me because it looked awful. Which isn't to say that I can do any better a deal on side panels, but it just looked bad with what there is. Now, it leaves me a couple of options as to where I could possibly mount battery, etc, etc, etc. And I've looked around online and seen what other people have done. A lot of people have just kept chunks of that. I can't hide it under the seat if I go for a flat seat. There just isn't space. But what some people have done, and I've seen it on a couple of places, is create a little, and bearing in mind I've got a lithium battery as well, so it's smaller, create a little battery box that goes, you know, on the swing arm mount, basically. I say goes on, is welded on or bolted on to there, so it kind of butts up against the back of the engine, so below the carburettor and the filters. Bearing in mind I've got nice decent air filters for it, and it goes, you know, basically behind the starter motor itself. Now I quite like that option. I need to examine it a little bit closer. Now obviously I don't have the engine in the bike, and I don't really want to throw the engine in the bike just to size up what I'm going to do with that, because I'll trash my paintwork because it ain't light. It's the sort of thing I only want to do once, and that's once the frame is reasonably sorted. So I'm a little bit of a so what here. I mean, I like the seat that I've made, but when I put that flat seat on it, it just opened up the bike more to me, I think. So, you know, kind of a query, and I won't take it as an insult if you think what I've made is shit. I'm not a fabricator, I'm learning, and you know, I will not write off, well, no, I'll happily write that off as welding practice if nothing else. So it's not it's not a wasted experience if I do decide to go down that route. So what am I on about? At the back of the bike there are, the frame at the moment just stops. Now if I use the seat that I've got, I cover that up with the seat unit because that was what it was designed to do. That's fine. If I'm going to put a flat track seat on it, I'll need some way of dealing with that. Now I have ordered like a calf hoop actually a raised calf hoop. Just out of interest, I mean, it cost me 11 quid, it's nothing really. So if I don't use it on this, it'll just go into stock and I use it on something else. But that will sort of close off the end. I don't think, if I do go for the flat seat, I don't think it will be using that seat that I've got, because I've got that issue with the bump around the rear shocks. But if I put the hoop on, I can cover that up, get a bit more fiberglass, and just make a new seat, you know, for that, for the bike. So that'll be a fiberglass. So, you know, I say, you know, blasé, yeah, it's just this. I've not done it before, but I have. You know, it'll be my second fiberglassing experience. I'm just sorting out speed, cruise control, because just about got used to this car. So that will be a like shrink wrap around the frame. Obviously, I'm not getting the speed before I painted and sorted on the frame. Shrink wrap over the frame, fiberglass over the top, pull it off, trim it off, foam on the top, and I've got a seat. Now, slightly frustratingly, I have done that on the other seat, and it would be wasted time, money, investment, etc., etc. if I've been in. But the more and more I look at it, the more I think, no, I don't know. I'm so conflicted. I am utterly conflicted. I've got a lot to do still on the bike. I've still got my loom tape has arrived, so I may have at the loom this weekend, as well as the rear peg hangers, which I don't intend to put the rear pegs back on, the passenger pegs, I suppose, but we'll see. As well as squaring those away and chucking some paint on those. I've also taken the back wheel off so I can check the rear drum to see whether or not I need to replace that. That's still within tolerance. I think minimum thickness is 2 mil. The one that's on there is 3.7 mil. So, you know, I don't need to replace it. I may still do, but I don't need to. So I've still got bits and pieces to do while I think about it. But there is a point of no return, and that point of no return is when I strip that frame down, because any lugs or mounting lugs that I'm not going to use, I want to cut off, because they're going to look a bit wanky otherwise. Now, part of those lugs that may well come off are those lugs for the side panels. If I end up having to fill that rear panel or those side panels with the battery and other stuff, I'll want to put proper, decent, original side panels back on, so I won't want to remove those lugs. I don't want to go down that route because I want that channel open, but it's a question of whether or not I can fit the various other elements in a decent position. Oi, boys in blue. The car in front's nigh on shat itself trying to get out of the way. Yeah, so that's the question for you, boys and girls. Do I go for a flat track look at the back? There is the possibility, if I am going to make my own flat track-esque back seat, that I could conceal the battery in a hump on the back. I'm not so sure about that personally. I'm not. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of having the dome on the back. I just think it looks a little bit, I don't know, try hard. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I think it would lead me to try to do something more calf-esque on the front, put a big like dome on the front or something. I don't know. I think it will look out of place if it's just that on the back, particularly with that slightly boxier tank that the bike has currently got, the red tank. I don't know. I think I'm encouraging myself more towards just going for the battery box hidden down by the engine by the swing arm. I may lose some of that through and through that I've got on the side panels by having those side panels at the moment. that might be a compromised path that I'm forced down. But I don't know. What do you think, people? And I'll chuck some comparison photos up while I'm talking out of my hoop. Do we go for the seat unit, the tail unit, I suppose, that I've pulled together myself, which I'll chuck a picture of, or does the what do you think of the flat tracker look? Now, I do, of course, reserve the right to thoroughly disagree with you and do completely the opposite that you suggest. But I'm interested in opinions. That's the beauty of YouTube, is the fact that it's really good for garnishing, for gathering people's opinions on, and, you know, see what you think. There is always that reserve option that, you know, opinions are like arseholes, in that everyone's got one, and it's not necessarily polite to expose it in public. But what do you think? Do I continue on the path that I'm on, or do I try down the route of making a flat back for it, and risk the clean lines that I've got running through around the freshly painted engine, the soon to be squared away swing arm, and create a relatively small battery box that will need to house the battery, the starter relay, the fuse box, and then more than likely have the regulated rectifier kind of bolted to the outside of it, because it needs airflow to remain cool. I don't know, what do you think, people? Give us a hint. Right, that'll do. Thanks for the keep me amused on a really boring motorway, and I'll catch you next time when I'll be doing something considerably more interesting in the garage. Cheers all, catch you later, ta-da.